When my friends heard that I was interviewing you, simultaneously, multiple of them messaged me about the Star Wars Christmas special.
Star Wars holiday special.
Sorry, I don't mean to be secular about it.
Well, because George invented a holiday, Life Day. We couldn't say Life Day because people thought it was going to be a telethon for some insurance company or some hitherto unknown disease.
And you wrote for the Osmonds and
the Brady Bunch Variety Hour.
The Brady Bunch Variety Hour.
Legendary.
This is television used to be good, okay?
Yeah.
Please welcome to the stage the man behind all the best moments in Oscars history and a lot of the worst ones, which he will cop to. The one and only, the legendary Bruce Vilanch. Where is he? Yes,
couch. I'm a larger person. I'd like to clear something up right now for you football fans out there. I am not Travis Kelce's mother. The resemblance is alarming.
I'm going to put down my first three cards. God damn it.
The wizard peed on my shoes.
Oh, that's too bad.
Oh, I know.
You really are the top T-shirt wearer in history. He's wearing festive Christmas gear, which is a red shirt and green Crocs.
It's a regular Christmas tree. Is this? We hearing this?
Yeah.
Oh, good, because I'm not getting any reverb, which is what's usual. I love reverb, so especially late at night, it's very good. It's a plain old Christmas tree talking to a decorated Christmas tree and calling her a whore.
When did you begin on your T-shirt journey, which is long and storied?
When
by
I
this
grew
point?
these tits.
Oh, I see.
They were man boobs for years, but face it, now they're tits. I cannot hide them.
You've earned them.
When I moved to L.A., actually, which is before anybody here was born, literally, it was like I was in the La Brea tar pits. I emerged. And there was a subway stop already, which was strange. When I moved to L.A. and I discovered you can go anywhere in L.A. in a T-shirt, I said hallelujah. I found, because I was a fat kid, and when you're a fat kid and your mother has OCD, she dresses you up, and you never are correct. Everything is just a little bit wrong, and nothing ever fits you. For years I was a husky, which is neither man nor boy. And nothing fits in it. If it does, it's in seersucker. It's horrifying. So that I discovered my comfort zone was wearing these.
Now, you have a new podcast, and I can't believe this is a new podcast because you should have been hosting this fucking thing for 100 years.
Well, I didn't have the idea.
It is called The Oscars, What Were They Thinking?
Yeah.
And you started writing on the Oscars in 1989,
that
which,
is
if
correct.
People here don't know, is a legendary Oscars. It's when, I believe, Driving Miss Daisy won Best Picture.
No, that was next year.
Oh, no, sorry. Rain Man
Rain
won Best
Man.
Picture. Oh, the 89 ceremony, yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Always a year later.
Correct. And at that ceremony, in the opening number, Rob Lowe was paired with Snow White for this weird number that I can only call surreal because it was so baffling, and they kept showing people in the audience who looked horrified.
Well, she came down the aisle greeting people, Snow White.
Yeah.
This is why you're at the Oscars. You may have a career-defining moment, and here's a girl dressed up as Snow White looking at you and going, "Oh, hello, Uma Thurman."
And she would have been there. Would have been the dangerous liaisons. Yes.
It was crazy. So. But it was borrowed. The number was borrowed from a show in San Francisco that you may have seen called Beach Blanket Babylon.
Oh, yes.
There you go. And there was Snow White. In that show, Snow White goes to San Francisco and discovers a world outside of Disney. And so Alan Carr, who was producing it, brought the whole number down and redid it for the Academy Awards. And, of course, because it was the Oscars, she couldn't do that number by herself. She had to have some young Hollywood stud doing it with her. And Rob Lowe actually said yes.
No, so it's like a subversive, interesting number, but we actually got it to the Oscars stage where people would just be baffled by it.
One of the reasons it's legendary, it was like the year before they'd had Terry Garr on an airplane wing flying down to Rio with the Rockettes.
They should have. I don't mean to disagree with that at all.
Yeah, I love Terry. She was great. This was a good friend. But we joked about the fact that Rio never sued. The Academy sued after that number for a number of reasons that are in my book. But what was astonishing about it was people remember it because 2 weeks after the Oscar ceremony, the Rob Lowe sex tape was revealed. It became a gigantic story, and of course, whenever they mentioned Rob Lowe, they would say, "Most recently seen on the Oscars dancing with Snow White," which prompted a lawsuit from Walt Disney's company. So it became legendary as a result of that. I mean, it's gotten much more attention than it should have gotten. And Rob, much to his credit, has owned all of this. He says he was the poster child for bad behavior, and he was in a book, and he did SNL, and he did a million things to tell people that he knows that he screwed up. And now, he's the grandfather, and he still is haunted by this thing.
And he's host of The Floor, a game show that I actually watched 9 episodes of over this break, and I apologize for that. Now, the podcast is called The Oscars.
Yeah.
What were they thinking? Now, in hosting this, do you hope to unearth stories from your time mainly on the Oscars?
Well, partially. I mean, I co-hosted with a guy named Adam Davis, who is a real academician. He understands. I mean, he's a film scholar, and so he has a brief with the Oscars that the pictures that have lasted over the years were the ones that the Oscars pretty much ignored in their day. And since I know and have made a study of how people vote, because for 25 years of writing the show formally, you could basically see how things were unfolding. So what we do is we talk about a particular year on each show, and we say why this one won, why that one didn't win, and all of that. All this kind of minutiae that people, now that people have Google, I mean, there are no more bar fights. People don't throw down because they don't know if Maris or Mantle hold the baseball record. They'll go, "Oh, you bitch!" Out there. Wait, let's Google it. Oh, it's Maris. Okay, thank you. We'll have a beer. So there's a culture now of this kind of fabulous interest in trivia, and the Oscar trivia is great because it involves names that you know and movies that you've seen and heard about, or maybe movies that you have no idea existed. That there was a movie called How Green Was My Valley.
Oh yes, 1941 Best Picture. Yes.
That beat Citizen Kane for Best Picture.
Correct.
So Citizen Kane was a scandal at the time, and much regarded by people who make movies, which is always, you should remember when you are talking about the Oscar show, that the Academy is made up of people who actually make movies, as opposed to the People's Choice Awards, where people in malls, or the Golden Globes, who were all valet parkers and wine stewards studying for their real estate license, pretending that they work for a newspaper in Cambodia. And
those.
The Critics' Choice, these are people who actually make movies, and so when they vote for something, it is significant.
Now, you started in 1989. Your last Oscars telecast was the one hosted by James Franco and Anne Hathaway,
Yes,
which I remember
don't tell
very.
either of them they did it.
Okay. What was your? I mean, I'm always interested when actors actually agree to host the Oscars, because why do this thing that involves literal stand-up comedy?
Franco, I mean, I don't know exactly why Anne said yes. I think that she thought it would be an interesting thing to add to her resume, because she's a precision instrument and she can do it all. And I know that James did it because he knew he was going to be nominated for 127 hours. Was that?
Yes, correct.
Where he gnaws off his arm or whatever, and he said, "I'm going to be. I am not. In fact, he was nominated, and he said, I'm going to sit there. I can sit there for 3 hours and lose to Colin Firth, who in fact won for playing the Stuttering King of England, and." Or I can host a show and have a good time. And of course, he did host a show. I don't think he had a good time. But I think he thought this is something to do instead of, if by some wild chance I win, I'll be in the wings and I can come out and and say thank you. But he knew that wasn't going to happen. So I thought it was the kind of thing that probably came to him, in some sort of a dream. Here's it. I don't have to sit through this thing. I'll host it.
Now, there are two ways of writing Oscars jokes, which is you write them well in advance and watch the movies that are nominated, or you respond to something that is actually occurring live on the show and you're backstage and write something spontaneous. Right. Which of those methods do you prefer?
Oh, I much prefer the working on your feet backstage. I mean, look, you have to know what you're doing, but you have to be elastic enough to change it. So the subject arises, because you want the show, especially for the host, you want the show to be spontaneous, to feel it's live. It's live everywhere. So you want to give people a kind of a thrill that they can't get on any other show because it'll be edited out. This thing will be. They're there. They're present in that moment. So what we learned with Billy Crystal was that if we position the host in certain spots, following, let's say, documentary, which is always kind of controversial, or if somebody who we think will win who will embarrass themselves, you position the host to come on right after so that they can make some kind of a comment about it. And it has worked. As I know, you worked on the Oscar show, so you know exactly. I mean, and Jimmy Kimmel, who you worked with, well, he had he had the Warren and Fay screw up with the envelope.
Oh,
on Moonlight.
I worked for the last two. I really wish I could have worked for that one. The idea that the entire world was paying attention to Faye Dunaway in 2017. It's like, thank you, God. I belong to Earth.
I know.
Thank you.
She was, she thought Warren was doing a bit.
Right.
She really did.
Famous comedian Warren Beatty. Yes.
Well, no,
he is a bit lighthearted
and Warren is, the last time Warren was on stage was in the '60s. I mean,
yeah.
He is, he's a movie star. So when the card was wrong, they realized he had the wrong card, that they had the Best Actress card.
Right.
And it said Emma Stone in. That's how it happens. Emma Stone in La La Land. Faye just looked over his shoulder and said La La Land because she thought he was doing some bit that was not happening, that wasn't working.
I assume you have tons of material from your time in the trenches there, but I've been told specifically that you may have some Madonna material.
Well, Madonna was on the show twice, actually, because 2 songs that she did in movies were nominated. And actually, they both won.
You Must Love Me from Evita and Sooner or Later from Dick Tracy. Yes.
And Andrew Lloyd Webber, it was the English Patient year. The English Patient won 9 Oscars, and we were all amazed because I viewed it as the trial of the century, the English Patient. And when he won for writing the song for Madonna for Evita, he came up and said, well, thank God there was no song in The English Patient. So, but the first time he won, it wasn't Sondheim, who wasn't there. Sondheim had broken his leg and couldn't fly, so he was not there, and Madonna did Sooner or Later. But she was very nervous. Her date was Michael Jackson, which I think would make anybody nervous. I worked with him, and it just made me nervous, How are you? I'm fine. How are you? Okay. And so you can see on the tape she's like kind of quivering. And part of the reason she was quivering was, as she went on, she said to me, "Look at the front row." And in the front row was Kevin Costner. This was the Dances with Wolves year, and he was winning everything. And Kevin Costner was in the Madonna Truth or Dare documentary.
Right.
And said something to her like, I thought your show was nice. And she said, nice.
Neat, yes. Neat. Yeah, I thought your show was neat.
Neat.
Yes.
Oh, neat. She's not neat? I don't do neat, And she had heard he was pissed off that she had included that clip in the documentary. So now she's got to go out and do this hot sex number in her Monroe ensemble in front of him. He's right in her, right under her, as it were. And so she was actually scared. She was very scared, and she got through the number and all that. And she had there were bodyguards, and there were 2 gigantic guys, like slabs of humanity, who were next to her. And we're standing in the wings. I'm standing between the 2 slabs of humanity, and she comes off, and she sees me, and she throws herself at me, and she's still quivering, and the 2 slabs are going. Like, what do we do about this? What do we do about it? And she's quivering, and she's quivering, and she's quivering. And finally she stops, and she looks up, and she says, oh, thank God that's over. I think she meant the song. I couldn't be sure.
Right.
But she was out of there immediately. Shoom! She was back to the loving arms of Michael Jackson.
Now, you also have a new book coming out called
I do.
It Seemed Like a Good Idea at the Time.
Bad
idea
idea
at the time. And the reason it's called It Seemed Like a Bad Idea at the Time is because not only have you written for the Oscars, you've written for some of the legendarily campiest specials in television history. I will allow you to name some of them, but I will start by saying that when my friends heard that I was interviewing you, simultaneously, multiple of them messaged me about the Star Wars Christmas special.
Star Wars holiday special.
Sorry, I don't mean to be secular about it.
Because George invented a holiday, Life Day, and so it was not a Christmas show. But we couldn't say Life Day because people thought it was going to be a telethon, for some insurance company or some hitherto unknown disease.
And you wrote for the Osmonds and
the Brady Bunch Variety Hour.
The Brady Bunch Variety Hour.
Legendary.
This is television used to be good, okay?
Yeah. The Paul Lynde Halloween special. These are shows that have achieved a life on YouTube, and every year, whenever they're on, I get inundated with emails from people. And when I'm on podcasts hosted by younger people, they say, "How did these happen? Who said yes to this? And have they paid their debt to society?" So I thought there's a book in this. So I wrote a book about how I wrote for the worst TV shows in history and lived. And it's called It Seemed Like a Bad Idea at the Time. On pre-order at Amazon, dropping March 4th, right after the Oscars. So hustle on down to your computer.
Now, you know this as a writer of the Oscars, but also as the word I guess is panelist on the Hollywood Squares reboot with Whoopi Goldberg from the late 90s.
As I said, I was just to the left of Whoopi.
Yes.
If that's possible.
Right. Somebody must be. You really obviously have the art of the one-liner down, and I feel like one-liners are harder and harder to come by as the years go. Even if like things like TikTok are about short-form content, I still don't feel like people are giving you just like quick jokes anymore. Do you feel like the art of just a bon mot is like going away or changing?
Well, bon mot is something that comes up, I think, in conversation. But I would beg, you've written some great ones. You had some great ones tonight. And every night, Colbert and Fallon and Kimmel and Seth Meyers, who's a great writer. They're still doing jokes. They're doing setups and punchlines and one-liner things. So I think it's still there. I don't know if it's there in conversation. And I certainly know it's not there on TikTok, because TikTok seems to me to be all about people reading their phones and falling into pits because they don't, and car crashes, fantastic car crashes. One after another, trucks and things. And I keep looking at this, never anybody driving. So I'm thinking this is like a Waymo nightmare. Just show this to Elon immediately, because he'll have to shut down the whole business because there are so many of those. But and of course I also look for the obscene stuff, but there's not enough of it there.
Right. You have to
and
go
yet
elsewhere.
We're banning it. Right.
Going back to the Star Wars holiday special, I don't know why you passed that up.
Oh, ask me anything.
Well, first, can we throw to a clip of it starring the fabulous, does anybody know the name I'm about to say?
B. Arthur.
B. Arthur.
Yeah.
Just one more dance, friend. Just one more chance, friend.
Yes.
Was this your idea, bitch?
Well, it was CBS's idea to have Bea on the show because she was Maude at the time.
Of course.
Pre-Golden Girls. And they wanted to pepper the show with CBS names. So, and she was interested in doing it because before she came to television, she was a Broadway musical comedy star. She was in the original Mame with Angela Lansbury, won a Tony, and she was in the original Fiddler on the Roof, the original Yenta the Matchmaker. So she wanted to sing, and nobody would let her sing, because, as I used to tell her, it's because you sing in Harvey Fierstein's key. You and Harvey, the only ones. It's the key to the basement. It's very low down here.
Below the wine.
It's painful. You have to cross your legs when she sings. You begin to feel the vibration coming up. So I knew we have to find something for her to sing, and she wanted to sing. We had her. It's a complicated story, but Han Solo and Chewbacca are on their way home to the Kashyyyk, the Wookiee planet, for Life Day, and they're being chased by.
Yes, go ahead.
They're being chased by Imperial stormtroopers, who all look like late edition Ford Fusions. They're white. Very odd. And so they make a detour to Tatooine, to the cantina. Bum, 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 ba-da-ba. And all the aliens are there, and Bea runs the cantina. This was in her Statue of Liberty period. She's running it. And so we thought, well, this is great, and she can have a song because she's running the bar. And she brought in a song by Kurt Weill and Bertolt Brecht, called the Alabama song. Frank Zappa fans will know it. Oh, show me the way to the next. I tell you I will die. I tell you really up holiday kind of song. And she wanted to do that, and the Bertolt Brecht estate said, no, nein, never. So Ken and Missy Welch, who were writing on the show, wrote her a song like that, which is somewhere between that and those were the days, my friend, we thought they'd never. Anyway, fairly jolly, and she's dancing with aliens. So now we're shooting the show, and the aliens we have on the show are not top drawer aliens. Because George is about to start shooting The Empire Strikes Back, and he has a whole bunch of new aliens, but he's not going to let us use them. And so we have to go to find old aliens, and so we had to go to like the Alien Outlet Mall in Cabazon and find these aliens. And they're all ill repair, Scotch tape, Elmer's glue all, and that kind of, they've been worn, they stink. And it's also, we're shooting at Warner Brothers, and it's like August, September, and it's very hot. And it's like those characters at Disney, you know, you put on a head and you dance around, and then you can't breathe. And so they all face plant, you know, sooner or later. So we lined up these aliens, and it was so hot on the set that they were one after another, they were going down. And there was one particular alien who we lovingly called Face. Because the head was a vagina on a nondescript body, I think, wearing like kind of a uniform. But, you know, George has a thing about vajayjays. It's a leitmotif. You know, in the Empire, I think, there's a big red angry one in the desert that swallows up Jabba the Hutt.
I'll have to
And Carrie is
that.
hanging on, you know, with handcuffs and all that. You must check it out. But there is some kind of vaginal thing happening in almost all of those movies. It's always artistic, but, you know, it is what it is. And so we called him Face, and the network censor didn't seem to mind. She said, he looks familiar. I thought, oh, she's been standing over a mirror again. No, miss. So every time somebody passed out, I would move Face closer to B. Because here's a trick. If you're an extra on a thing, try and get in the same frame as the star. Then you won't get cut out. So I said, move. And so finally we were shooting the thing, and it was B and Face, almost a two-shot. And she finishes the number, and she's going, I tell you, I will die, wham! And she whacks Face. And Face just goes over backwards. Boom. And B just kind of looks down at him and kind of looks back and says, well, I've never hit a man in the before. And pause. Cut! We'll go again, bring in a new alien. And there's a tape of it somewhere. Every so often, somebody puts it online, but, you know, they wait for just the right, because, you know, there are bots now that are searching it out.
Right.
And every time it shows up, somebody, I don't know who, somebody at Lucasfilm, I think, their entire job may be finding that clip. They'll be replaced by AI. There's no question about it.
I cannot stop picturing Face going down. Wow, that's very vivid.
I know. Or going down on Face, which
Right.
would be
Yeah.
a whole other thing for probably not in the Star Wars attraction at Star Wars Canyon. You should pardon the expression.
We're not that progressive. We will get there, I'm sure. Well, thank you, Bruce. Listen to the Oscars. What were they thinking? Wherever you get your podcasts.
It's love it or leave it.